Hi, my name is Mark Keene from Keene Engineering, and I'm going to show you some of our newest innovations we're coming out with. I'm sure a lot of you guys have already seen our videos on the A52S sluice box, but this sluice box has been a really good seller for us. It's been #1. It is the highest production sluice box of any sluice box of its size in the world. It's probably one of the only sluice boxes that you don't have to pre-classify the material. It's also the fastest one that you can possibly set up. So it really is an amazing folding backpackable piece of equipment, and it'll run a lot of material. In fact, this will keep several men busy if you have a good fast flowing stream. So very successful product. But we decided to take it to the next level. So what we came out with is a high banker conversion kit for it. So we are kind of our goals. We wanted to have something that was light, portable, that folded up, that you could still light enough to backpack into an area, and this is kind of our final product. You'll actually see a lot of development videos we did previously on this, but I really like the way the final product turned out. And like I said, one of our goals is to be able to fold it up. So basically, we built this whole system so it all folds up so you can backpack. And I'm sure you've all seen in the earlier videos that the legs all retract and fold up, so that's a very compact system. If you want to fold the box up, you just remove your flap here, and then you can take your legs or your high banker support and set it down here. And there's an actual rod here that I can actually shove through the box to the other side on this, right around here someplace, and it locks this hopper in place. And how easy is to pack that in? So imagine these legs all being folded up and in this pinned in position. So you have something that weighs maybe in the ballpark of about maybe 35 pounds or so for this setup right here. So it's pretty light, pretty portable. But let's put it back together here. It folds up, it only takes a couple seconds to set up. If you've seen my other videos, I got this rubber flap deal. An amazing difference that this makes. So you just take this, drop your flap in position, and then we have a little cotter pin like this, and we just shove through the hole to get it back together. But what I really like though is that it does fold up, it is light, it is portable, and it's a very clean piece of equipment. All right, one of the more challenging parts of the high bankers to come out with was this rear adapter cap. We had to come up with a nice cap that capped off the back. We had to have all this looking nice and clean, professional for the customers. And in this cap, we sell a piece of Miracle mat that goes on the bottom. I have a layer of expanded metal that fits over that, and then I have a punch plate classifier screen on top of that. So I'm going to probably sell this in pieces or as one unit. The high banker hopper here, it's worked out really good because it's relatively light and it's real portable, and it can even be broken down into smaller pieces if you want. You can take this piece out. Now this is the classifier screen. We finally, over many tests, different sizes, we actually decided on about a 1/4 inch spacing, because the smaller you classify your material down to, the finer bullets you're going to catch. And the sluice box doesn't have to work as hard. And by doing a small classification like that, what really works nice is you're able to up your production levels on the machine. We're able to get, half, maybe even somewhere between half and 3/4 of a yard an hour through a machine like that. And if you told me this before, I'd say there's no way. But because of the smaller classification, the new updated riffle designs, it's really handling quite a bit of material. Okay. This is a new 1/4 inch woven wire classifier screen. And sometimes I really like the woven wire over the punch plate in some conditions. It sounds funny, if you're coming down on something, the punch plate works well. But if you're coming across, I find that the woven wire does a really good job. And the beauty of the woven wire is that it creates a lot of drag on the water, and the material just falls through it very quickly. So what we do is we basically take this and we just clip it onto the expanded metal in the box, and it just rests over the Miracle mat. And the beauty of that is it really accomplishes two things. #1, it keeps the larger rocks from impacting the actual riffle design. It also classifies the material down to about 1/8 inch that's going across the Miracle mat, and it just really helps with the fine gold recovery. We kind of call this our slow flow recovery system. We've even taken it to another level. This is a 1/4 inch woven wire classifier screen that you wouldn't use if you're high banking. You may not even use it if you're using a 2-inch dredge, but if you're going to push this machine up to a 2.5-inch dredge and you're going to increase your water flows, you can add this into the back end of the box, and that just sets in just like that. And this is also part of that slow flow recovery system. To make it very brief about a slow flow recovery system, what it is when you run water across the screen like a piece of woven wire, the water speed underneath it drops. So if you run over like a 1/2-inch piece of woven wire, you're going to drop your speed by maybe 20%. If you run over like a 3/8 piece of woven wire, you're going to drop your speed down to, let's say, 30-35%. You go down to 1/4, you pretty much drop your water speed in half. And if you go finer than that, it even slows it down more. So you can have a lot of water going through a box very quickly if you have the right screens in it. And that's the beauty of the slow flow recovery system. But again, these are optional, and you only use it when you need it. Again, if you're high banking, you would probably never use this screen, okay? When you're high banking or dredging, you probably would run this screen here. So there's some different options how you can set your box up. A lot of people don't realize it's kind of fun to play with different recovery systems and stuff, but I'm really happy with this because we actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 different riffle configurations, and they all work a little differently in different conditions. So, all right, since we're talking about the hopper a little bit, I want to give you a little better view of the inside. I know the other videos are actually working because you'll see it, but I just love the fact that this classifier screen is down to 1/4 inch. And I mean, look at the surface area you have on this thing. If you were to flatten out this box, and you had a lot of like dirt clods and caliche and stuff, you could dump your stuff on here and really give this long spray bar a long time to really disseminate your dirt clods and break down your clays and so on. So I just really love and appreciate this classifier screen. So many people who manufacture high bankers, they have little teeny screens, and that's okay if you're just running a small amount of water through the box, but we're coupling this thing to our P90G, and honestly, that is the baddest ass water pump in the world for its size. Pound for pound, you'll find the closest competitor to something like this might put out 75 gallons as opposed to maybe 100 gallons what we're doing, and maybe head pressure, they may do maybe, let's say, like 45 pounds. This thing will do closer to 60 pounds. So it really is a seriously hardcore unit. So, and the reason I like using this one, it's good enough for a 2-inch dredge, even a 2.5-inch dredge, I think has enough power. High bankers are not so critical on the pumps, but all right, I've gone ahead and I've converted my A52S high banker mode over to the dredge mode. And in doing so, I discovered that I had some hosing compatibilities. I had previously run a 1-inch pressure hose from the spray bar to my Y splitter, and it worked fine. However, when I switched it over to the dredge mode, I had the smaller hoser, which I didn't care for. And it's so important, especially when you're dredging, that you keep all your hoses full size, no restrictions, everything nice and clean. So we've now got away from the 1-inch hose, and we're using a short 5-foot 1.25-inch hose. The beauty of having this splitter system is when you're dredging, it gives you the capability of washing out cracks and crevices underwater. You can use this to spray the sluice box down. It helps with the cleanup. And it's nice to have this ball valve right here. And what that does for you, you can actually divert all your pressure into this nozzle if you want to. Now, if you're doing a lot of dredging, I would probably switch take this adapter out and adapt directly over to a full 1-inch pressure hose. And people don't realize this. If you take a 3/4 garden hose as opposed to a 1-inch pressure hose, this is going to probably flow maybe 30% more pressure and probably damn near twice the volume. So upgrading your hose to a larger size is always a huge advantage. Also, by having this particular blaster nozzle assembly, if I'm dredging and I want to dredge, let's say like a dryland dredge, I can just open up this valve and I can be washing out cracks and crevices and sucking up on a hillside if I want to, so I can suck and blow at the same time. And you can control your water flow here. So, for example, you have like a little pothole you want to clean out. Well, you let your water flow in full blast and then kind of loosen it up, and then you can suck while you're blowing the water out. If you want a little more suction, all you have to do is just close this valve down a little bit, and you can control the amount of suction you have on the nozzle. But having this little Y splitter and ball valve, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like a game changer. It makes a huge difference in the performance of the machine and the capability of being able to work up and out of the water. There's a lot of good nozzles out there like the Hydroforce and some other types of a lot of homemade stuff, but I would much prefer to have this system over any other type of system because you can really tear the material up and you get down into cracks and crevices and really clean out an area much more effectively. So I'm going to walk over here. Now, what we've done here is we made a couple changes inside the hopper. We actually have a very long tube that protrudes the material up into the box. Since we have this nice big open classification system, you want to utilize it so that you really break down the clays and have a good liquefied slurry going into the sluice box, and that really optimizes your recovery. And we put a little rubber flap on here, and what that does simply is it just keeps you don't get a lot of overspray. This thing kind of opens up here when it's running, and you can see the videos of it running on some of my earlier ones. But this little flap and this simple system makes a really simple thing that you can add on and take off in just a matter of a couple minutes. So when I'm dredging, and pretty much all the time if I can, I'm going to have that full 1-inch pressure hose with me. I'm going to be blasting with one hand and sucking up with the other hand. And the cool thing about this type of a system, you can pick this up in and out of the water. It's not going to affect the flow. The recovery box in here is really nice too because it's very forgiving, if that makes sense. A lot of guys are running just like a rubber riffle or just have one style riffle without any kind of classification. If you were to come in and out of the water, the system tends to kind of, it simply loses gold. Your recovery will fall off rapidly. But when you have a more forgiving, a variety of riffle designs, you tend to hold on to the gold much better, even in more harsher conditions. So let's go take a walk on the other side of the unit. So over in here, you can see we've got that little add-on screen I showed you previously, which is nice. And it works really good when you're dredging and when you're high banking. But I've got this here, which is what we classify as like a slow flow screen. And all it really does for us here, even though the material is already classified to 1/4 inch, it slows the water down. So you wouldn't use this when you're high banking. You're only pushing maybe 50, 75 gallons a minute going through the sluice. But when you're dredging, you're pushing 100, even more than 100 gallons a minute going through your box. So what this will do for us, it will slow the water flow. So let's just say, for example, the water's flowing at, let's say, a level of about 6 feet per second. That's still pretty fast to capture your really fine gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this in here. And what this simply does is now that the rocks and stuff and the larger pebbles are still going to wash right through the sluice with no problems, but this creates a lot of drag on the water, and it also accomplishes a few things. The water speed will go from, let's say, 6 feet per second down to 3 feet per second. This will keep some of the larger pebbles from falling into the riffle board, keep the bigger stuff rolling off. And you've got the same thing right here. This is just doing it at a much finer level. And up in the upper box here, just pull my cotter pin out here. I know I've talked in the videos, I really like this removable rubber damper. But you can see we have a punch plate system. I've got a piece of the Miracle mat with a piece of heavy expanded metal on top, and that combination works fantastic. As a matter of fact, in our videos, we probably caught 90% of our gold right up in this top half. It didn't even get down to the lower half of the box. So it's been really good for optimal fine gold recovery. And again, this rubber flap system, be able to add it, remove it, get it out of your way, is just so cool. And there is another rubber flap back in here that usually just push back. And what that flap does is that when the water comes out, it just hits that mat and it rolls everything forward. So you don't have too much material building up in the box.